Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast post-game show. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, joined by John Brogan. Arizona loses to Duke 69-55. I know a lot of people are very, very upset on this. I'm not going to be as upset. I'm going to say a couple things, and then we will get back. But TLN, I totally disagree with you. I think Duke is the most talented team in the country. Watching them up close, they're incredible. It's a very talented team. It just is. Cooper Flagg is the most talented player in the country. You've got two other lottery picks there. Just looking at them, that's a more talented team than Arizona. Now, Arizona did things that they should be able to play better than, but at the same time, I'm not going to overreact, but at the same time, they didn't look good in this game, Brogan. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, and when you have the best player in the country, the best player on the court with Cooper Flagg, we talked about this. Your margin for error is greater. But this Arizona team is going to go as Caleb Love goes. He's a first-team All-American last year. He was 19 points a game. And this is 2 games in a row now against, competent teams where he's kind of had 2 stinkers and Arizona's lost. So they need him to be 15 or 20 point per game guy in the big games for them to be able to win those games. It's that simple to me.
It's got to be that. It's got to be that simple. We're going to start with Caleb. We're going to start with Caleb Love here. And you and I were talking about this as I was driving home. Here's where we're at with Caleb Love. You have got to be able to get to if he is going to miss shots, there is going to be, and again, there's a lot of guys we're going to get to here, but if he's going to miss shots, if he's going to miss threes, he has got to be able to get to the basket. And that is something that I don't know whether it's on Tommy, whether it's on Caleb Love, whatever the case may be. We've seen it. He can get to the basket, but just settling for threes when they're not going in, when you could be attacking, that to me is an issue, Brogan.
Yeah, and I give Duke a lot of credit because with Flagg at the power forward and him being a dynamic shot blocker, and then Motiejus obviously is a good shot blocker as well. Duke did a really good job of crowding the paint and kind of taking that away from Arizona early in the game, and it got Arizona off to a slow start. I mean, they missed 3 or 4, maybe even 5 wide open threes early in the first half. Duke hit a couple, got out to a quick early lead, and that kind of just set the tone for the game. And so Duke definitely wasn't allowing Arizona to get anything in or near the paint for sure.
Right. Now, when it comes to Arizona, and when it comes to Caleb, somebody in here just said they'd rather have Boswell. No, I don't want to have Boswell on this team. We already watched Boswell. I don't need a Boswell under
Maybe we should try Kerr instead of Caleb.
Yeah, I don't want either one of those. I know how that plays out. I don't want either one of those. Did Dino Babers slide over and develop our half court offense this year? That's very good. All right, now there's some other things too that I don't understand really, and it's not really the reason that Arizona lost. But I'm going to keep one guy that we've got to give kudos to, and is Jaden Bradley. We're going to get to him in a second. But I'm also of the opinion too that I know a couple things at this point. Anthony Del Orso is not good enough to play against good teams. You cannot have him in there. Those minutes all have to go to Carter Bryant at this point. Now listen, Del Orso, it's cool. You want to play him against your UCFs, things like that. But watching this game up close, Brogan, it was crazy. The second that he went into the game, Duke immediately went at him. And what was even more interesting was that they would also go at him, basically hoping that he would get the ball, and so they could rip it away from him. That's one thing that I think we found out through 4 games, and I like him in theory, but those minutes got to go to Carter Bryant. You need to fast track him as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think what we found out the last couple of games is that their rotation is getting tighter and tighter on guys who can actually play meaningful minutes against, good teams. Del Orso now 2 games in a row, he's shown that he can't even necessarily handle the ball, protect the ball. He's turning the ball over left and right. He didn't get a single shot up today. I thought it was interesting when Tommy put him in the game because they were hurting for somebody. They needed somebody who could make a shot. So I'm like, okay, he comes in the game, maybe he'll get an open 3, something like that. But instead, he gives up a 3 or 2. Turns the ball over, and you're like, well, okay, it's the Wisconsin game all over again. So, yeah, I mean, Carter Bryant did not look out of place at all in this game. He looked like he belonged on the court for 30 minutes. And so I think the big men rotation with the big 3 is going to have to get figured out. But after that, it's kind of just Carter Bryant at this point.
Yeah, it's Carter Bryant at that point, and that's kind of where you're at. Now, we talked about some of the big men. Let's talk about Henry Vasar. I mean, not Henry Vasar, excuse me. Let's talk about Mount Krivas for a second. let me ask you this: how much of this with Krivas is just getting back into game mode? Because again, he hasn't been playing a ton. I get that, but at the same time, also, how much of this also is that, against certain teams, he's just going to be a little bit too quick for him. I mean, he had 3 passes knocked away from him. He had some problems finishing. He had 5 assists, though. That was not something that I expected. But where are we at with Krivas, in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm fine with him. Duke's a big, long, athletic team, and so those teams are always going to be tough matchups for him. But again, he's got all season to kind of get back into shape, get his groove back. The problem is they needed him tonight to be able to get some easy buckets for them because they were struggling to shoot from outside, and he didn't. So again, if Love's not going to be scoring, if Krivas, you can't get him the ball in the block and he can't score, then you end up with 55 points.
Right.
I'm not concerned with him because, again, he missed all of preseason, basically, all of the all practice, conditioning, all those things. So I think he needs another month before we really start to say, okay, is he just who he's shown, or does he have more upside and where he's going to go?
All right, now Eric Brotherton, interesting point about Bradley. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, why don't we get to the Desert Financial Credit Union by the numbers? I'm assuming these aren't going to be very pretty for Arizona. All right, that's what Desert Financial Credit Union by the numbers. This is presented to you, America's too. Arizona's #1 credit union. Check it out, Desert Financial Credit Union, named by Forbes. Okay, now, a big part of this to me, and this stat isn't on there, I was a little bit surprised, Brogan, by how much Duke, it felt like Duke really controlled the glass in this game. And yes, you got Cooper Flagg. Yes, you've got, the big man. But at the same time, I didn't expect them to basically own the glass like it felt like they did. Everything for Arizona was one and done. Almost everything down the court. I thought Arizona would be able to do a better job in that.
Yeah, and, early in the game, but late in the game especially, Arizona would get a stop and then Lou fumble the ball out of bounds. Duke gets an offensive rebound. And so, they showed the stats at the start of the game. Arizona's #1 in the nation in rebounding, 24.8 rebounding differential. And I think it got flipped today where they got out rebounded by 20 rebounds or something crazy with a handful of offensive rebounds. But again, I think when you start to look at all of these things, they shot 26% from 3. They didn't get to the free throw line. Love had a clunker game. They didn't get any offensive rebounds. That's how you end up with 50 points, and you lose to good teams that way. Like Arizona didn't have anything break their way. At least against Wisconsin, they eventually shot a bunch of free throws. And so if they're not going to make free throws, not going to make threes, not going to offensive rebound, it's going to be tough to score, in today's college game.
All right, Ryan Neal. Remember when Mike Luke thought Caleb Love was good? I'm still going to ride with Caleb Love, man, at the end of the day. Listen, I know he hasn't played well. He was an All-American last year. He was a Conference Player of the Year. I mean, they need him to be good. One thing about it, I'm going to disagree with Brian Kinsley here. I don't agree with this. Jaden Bradley's been a boss this season. I mean, Jaden Bradley is getting you 20-plus points per game in every single game. You could say, well, he's not a pure point guard. Well, if he was a pure point guard, he'd be in the NBA starting right now. But Jaden Bradley is one guy that I think I don't have any concerns about. And honestly, Brogan, I think that he's probably drastically outperform most people's expectations.
Well, and I mean, who's Duke's point guard? Tyrese Proctor?
Yeah.
Is it
Caleb Foster? I'll take Bradley over both them.
Right. So my point is, I don't know who that, like, the pure point guard thing doesn't really exist anymore. And so if you're going to tell me that Jaden Bradley's going to get you 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3-4 assists or whatever in a big game, I'll sign up for that before the game starts, all day, every day, not to mention he had 5 steals. But even if he's 10 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists a game out of my point guard spot, every coach in the country would take that. So I don't get the he's not a point guard thing, because he is a point guard. He's a great on-ball defender. He guards the other team's point guards. He does all those things. So I don't get that. The bottom line is, if we all went through life and all got judged on the 2 out of 10 bad days we had versus the 8 out of 10 good days we had, we'd all be miserable people.
Right.
So when I look at Caleb Love, he had a couple bad games, but his resume speaks for itself. He averages, 15 to 20 points a game for his career. He's been an All-American. It's a little early to be judging Caleb Love and sending him to the bench and all the things that, people are clamoring for.
Okay, now, Ben, you guys hate on Boswell, but he would be the best passer and ball handler on this team by a wide margin. No, dude. I mean, and this is with all due respect. We've seen Boswell last year where Boswell was terrified to shoot. We've seen Boswell where you couldn't even really have him in the game. He was off doing things off the court that he shouldn't have been doing. He didn't take it seriously. I'll take Jaden Bradley on his worst day over Kylan Boswell every day of the week. I don't need Kylan Boswell back when I've seen what I've gotten from Jaden Bradley, Brogan.
Well, Kylan Boswell is going to lead the team in air balls, and he's going to lead the team in no-shows in big games. We know that, and he's kind of doing the same thing at Illinois, honestly. So,
right, it
I'm
just
all
is what
good
it
with
is.
Bradley with Bradley at the point guard. I don't need to see.
Yes, I think it's very well. AZAK said, "Stop writing their." Yes, I don't know if I can say that. Stop writing. But either way, yeah, they weren't good. I don't need them here. Okay, now, let's talk Bridge Tech Communications right here. He says Caleb Love has not mentally accepted he's still playing college basketball. He's not playing with purpose or conviction. This is something that we need to that does. And again, I like Caleb Love. I'm going to defend Caleb Love, but at the same time, what I will say is that what I need from Caleb Love is I need that swagger back. I need that even if you're not making shots to be taken in it, because we kind of joked about it last year where, it's like, yeah, he's 0 for 8, but you could tell in his eyes that next one's going in. I need that back. Even if he's not making shots, I need that back because right now his confidence is shook.
Yeah, and nobody's going to say that Love played a good game tonight. Nobody's going to say Love was good against Wisconsin, but the team is built for Love to be their number one guy, period.
Right.
The team is built on him scoring 15 or 20 a game. If you don't like that, take it up with Tommy. But the bottom line is when he goes 2 for 11 and scores, 5-6 points, whatever he had tonight, then we're going to lose to good teams. But that doesn't mean I'm going to put all of the blame on Caleb Love because most of the other team didn't show up tonight with the exceptions of KJ Lewis and Jaden Bradley. So, sure, Love Shields, he gets most of the blame because he's the bona fide star of the team. But at the same time, it's one game. If this were the NCAA tournament, I'd have a whole different opinion. And I get what he did last year in the tournament. So I'm not trying to say that, but we got 30 more games this year. So
yeah, there's a lot of time. Again, you're going to have to make this one work. And again, with Caleb Love or Ryan Neal, listen, I get it. He's not playing well. He was also an All-American last year. I mean, those players don't just walk through the door. So you got to be able to, it is, I guess it is what it is at that point. All right. One thing that I would like to see, I'd like to see KJ Lewis. I've also come to this conclusion as well. KJ Lewis has to be more aggressive offensively. I think that he needs to be able to kind of, when he gets into the paint and when he finishes, Arizona needs him to be more than just kind of the guy that gets his hands on a lot of loose balls. You made that point. I mean, because he's fantastic at that, but I need him to be able to up that scoring, and I think he can do it.
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me because the way Tommy's offense goes is the bigs are going to get the ball plenty in a normal game. Tonight they didn't, or they weren't able to finish, right? The high-low thing wasn't really working. Then you've got Caleb Love being aggressive. Then you've got Bradley being aggressive. And so I only need KJ Lewis being more aggressive in the games where Love isn't showing up. If he's coming out aggressive from the get-go, then I think that takes too much away from Love and too much away from Bradley, too much away from the high-low. So, yes, I like it when he's aggressive, but I like him as a change of pace when kind of they're in a funk offensively or they're missing a bunch of shots.
Right.
But I would say the same thing about Bradley. Like, if Love's jacking up threes and if the team's just missing open shots, then we just need to put our heads down and go to the bucket.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with the great Dennis Walsh. I do believe, again, listen, if we're sitting here in a month talking about this, then yeah, that's fine. But I do think that there's some massive overreaction going on here. Again, let me ask you this. Let's say you go into Atlantis and you, let's say you win. Let's say, all right, is all of a sudden Arizona good now? I mean, because that could happen. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if that happened. So, like I said, pump the brakes here a little bit. Pump the brakes. Ryan Neal, he had better games. Didn't he drop like 33 on Purdue last year, if I'm not mistaken, something like that? He's had good games against good teams. We've seen it. Brogan?
Yeah, and look, we don't have to like Caleb Love. We don't have to love Caleb Love, but the team is built the way it's built. Like, I'm going to keep saying this entire show. Caleb Love going to the bench, not shooting, not scoring, all those things sounds cute after a loss, but the reality is that the offense is built around him, period. So we're better off finding ways to support Love because we need him scoring in order for this team to be good. And, to your point, once we win a few games, then the smile will be back on everybody's faces and all will be well. It's, it's coming off a loss. But
yeah,
Duke's,
all right, now,
Duke's Duke.
All right, now let's pay some bills here first, everybody. And when I say pay bills, I'm saying branded bills. Branded bills. All right, now you might say to yourself, Mike, branded bills, where can I get some? Thanks for asking me. Branded bills, you can go to branded bills and you can get all kinds of good stuff. Brogan, that hat looks like a branded bills. It looks good. You should, I like this hat. Where did you get it? For branded bills?
No. This one came from Ventana, but I have my branded bills out. I should have wore it next time.
You should. Next time you will wear it.
Next
All right,
time.
head to brandedbills.com and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order. JJ Salinas, the great JJ Salinas says, I got my hat. Check it out, Branded Bills. Dennis Walsh, well, you're up cruising around A Mountain. You should have one of those. Also, the Rickety Bridge, wear one of those as well. Branded Bills. All right, now, not only Branded Bills, my friend, but we also have something else that we need to talk about. The Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Let's get it going. The wave. Brogan, let me see you do the wave. Come on. Get the wave going. Woo! Woo! All right, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. What kind of experience is it? It is a fun and immersive experience. The great thing about that, too, is that the Gila River Resorts and Casinos, you can have fun. You can achieve legendary status, my friends, at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check it out. Another one of these ones where you will thank me later on it. You can see that from I-10. You can see it from I-10, and you will... and like I said, you can go check it out. Achieve legendary status. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Okay, now let's see here. I don't know that we're hold on. I don't know that we're coddling anybody here. We're just saying that it is what it is. I mean, Caleb Love has to play better. I don't know what else. I don't know how else to put it. Caleb Love has got to be play better. But I also am saying too that the thing that I was really hoping for is when he came back, I was hoping that he'd get to the free throw line more. And I don't know. I don't know if I put some of that on Tommy. I don't know. But that's got to be something. Now, one thing that I think we agree on is Carter Bryant. You've got to fast track these minutes. You've got Carter Bryant. Watching him, you can just tell that he's got an NBA game to him. Now, again, it's a little ways off, but you've got to be able to fast track these minutes, in my opinion, Brogan. Those ADO minutes, those got to go to Carter, whether he's at the 3, whether it's at the 4 at some points, he's got to be in there. And because while he looked out of place against Wisconsin, he looked very much in place against Duke.
Yeah, and I think Tommy will find ways to get Del Orso minutes in the easier games, and I think Bryant will get all the minutes in the tougher games. But the rotation, we thought before the Wisconsin game was going to be 9. Now it's probably going to be 7. He's going to play all 3 bigs, and I think they all deserve to play between Awaka, Vaser, and Krivas, but they're going to split 2 people's minutes basically. And so that, again, Carter Bryant's going to get all the minutes at the 3 and the 4 that he can handle, which will be a good thing.
Yeah, now we should. Now, Dennis Walsh says I don't understand the KJ hate in the chat. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to KJ, he's let me ask you this, Brogan. How many players from Arizona would start at Duke?
I think 2 probably. I think 2 players start at Duke. Yeah. And I think the argument is Bradley and Lewis. That's the argument, because Knipple, Flagg, and Malach are starting for sure, no matter what.
Yeah, they're all starting, and so again, you've got to look into that, and it's going to be interesting to see how Duke does play out. But again, I don't think that like I said, I am not backing away from anything that I thought. Now, one guy that I do need to get more from, though, and Arizona just needs it. You got to get more from Trey Townsend. Listen, Trey Townsend last year, he put up big numbers against good teams. I don't need Trey Townsend averaging 17 and 8, but I need to be able to count on Trey Townsend for 12 and 7. Something like that. I got to be able to get more of that. I can't be getting 6 and 4. That's another thing that they've got to figure out one way, shape, or form. They've got to be able to get more from Trey Townsend.
Yeah, and tonight was a tough matchup for him because he's going against Cooper Flagg most of the game, and Duke's, again, they're athletic, and I think that's Townsend's an undersized power forward. He's crafty, he's skilled, but sometimes athleticism negates a lot of that. So I think tonight was more of a bad matchup for him, more so than like a reflection on him as a player. And I think we'll see good things from him in the future. I think today was just a tough matchup for him.
Yes, for sure. Now, going forward, then and I think you made a good point. There's not a lot that went right for Arizona in this game, and not only was there not a lot that went right, I mean there just wasn't. And I think when you look at this team, when you look at this Arizona team, you've got to. Let me ask you this, and let me ask anybody this in this chat. If Arizona were to win and battle for Atlantis, would anybody really be shocked by that? I guess that's my point. Would we be sitting here shocked by that, Brogan? I wouldn't be. Would you?
No, and it's easy to, it's easy to look at this game and be like, oh, Arizona's a bubble team or whatever, everybody's trying to say at the moment. Right. But if you look at the game, Arizona really just played a bad game. It's not indicative of their talent. It's not what their normal games are going to be throughout the regular season. No offensive rebounds. They didn't make any threes. They didn't get to the free throw line. Their defense was fine. They gave up a couple of cheap points to Duke at the end because they were pressing and fouling, but they gave up in a normal game 65-ish points to Duke. Plenty good on the defensive end. But I don't think you're going to see another Arizona game all year where they shoot so poorly from three, only make a handful of free throws, and have next to no offensive rebounds. So if you tell me that, hey, we got that game out of the way now and we'll never have that game again the rest of the year, great. I'll take it. And they're going to end up beating a bunch of good teams this year, and they're not going to lose 14 or 15 or 16 games and be a fringe bubble team. It's just not going to happen. They get too much talent for that.
Yeah, Mr. Tyler Warden, let's not pretend that Duke had a good game. I mean, that's fair at the same time. I'm just saying I know what I saw out there, and I know I saw a team that I would, and I put this out there a couple different times where if there's a more talented team out there from an NBA perspective, I'd like to see it. Now, one person is mentioning you had a ton of recruits there. Recruits don't go based off of a win or a loss. They go, listen, I mean, these decisions, Gilbert Arenas' kid is not making this decision if he's going to come to the U of A based off what just happened in this game. That's just not how these things play out. It was great. I got to give a massive shout out to the McHale faithful because they were really, really good. Now, Eric Brotherton, let me ask you this. Back-to-back games against Power 4 schools and the product looks bad, but they were dramatically different though at that point, because obviously against Wisconsin you were able to score enough, you couldn't defend anybody. That was a weird game. Against Duke you were just kind of outclassed. It is what it is. But everybody's always complaining about Tommy Lloyd. They're like, oh, he wins all these games in November, and then he doesn't do anything in March. We only get to the Sweet 16. I mean, maybe, I just dropped my phone. Maybe there's something to be said for that there, Brogan. What say you?
Well, I want to come back to let's not pretend like Duke had a good game. Because short of Duke scoring 100 points and making 33s and making it so obvious to anybody watching that they played an awesome game,
right?
Duke held Arizona to under 10 fast break points, one of Arizona's strong suits. Duke held Arizona to under 10 offensive rebounds, out offensive rebound of 13-6. Duke had more points in the paint than Arizona. Duke shot 40% from three. Cooper Flagg had 24, 5, and 5 or whatever. So if you were to tell Duke they were going to have all those things happen before the game started, they would be like, we'll take it. That's a great game for us, and we'll probably win. And that's exactly what happened. So do I think Duke played their very, very best game? No, but I think Duke executed their game plan exactly how they wanted to, which is to shut down the fast break points, stop the offensive rebounds, and take advantage of the Cooper Flagg mismatch and make some threes. And so Duke played a good game. Arizona played a crap game. Arizona lost. Pretty simple.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. ASU fans in here talking. ASU lost by 57 points to Duke. Yeah, I don't know what else to say there. They lost by 57 points. Now they're saying, "Oh, it's an exhibition." So you mean to tell me that you didn't want to win that game? Then you just went in there and yeah.
Sandbag.
Now,
Didn't want to show too
yeah,
much.
yeah, they didn't want to win. Yeah, I mean, heck, when you're going to play Duke, who really wants to win that game? I'm sure Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley did not want to win that game. So now. Now let's talk about some things too. And I like Tommy Lloyd a great deal. I'm a big fan of Tommy Lloyd, but there are a couple things though that, like I said, I'm not. And again, it slowed down. It was better in the second half. I'm not a big fan of the perimeter 3-point defense. I do not understand why they will not hedge on. And it's weird. You and I have talked about this on the phone a million different times. It's with Sean Miller. You had the guy that would hedge out to 87 feet with Caleb Tarczewski. And now with Tommy Lloyd, you have somebody that will go under on every single screen. I don't understand that. I don't. And again, Lloyd's not a dumb guy. I mean, I don't understand why that is, because it's clearly at this point, and it's clearly at this point something that is the calculation. That is the calculation that, we're going to do that. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pretend that Tommy doesn't know how to coach defense, because he clearly does, but the switching every screen and getting ourselves into some mismatches annoys me. And we either overhedge on our screen coverage, or we play drop coverage and we kind of let guys come off and shoot mid-range jump shots, open threes, whatever. He's going to have to figure it out. Those types of things work on defense when you've got somebody like Caleb or KJ Lewis involved in the play, where his effort, and Jaden Bradley for that part too, his effort's going to kind of compensate for any advantage the offense gains. But when you got Caleb Love, doesn't fight through screens really well, Del Orso, Bryant's got a little bit of length, but he's still young, figuring it out. So he's going to have to figure some things out on defense to put his team in maybe a better position to defend,
Right,
versus we just switch everything and deal with your mismatch. But again, I think he'll figure it out.
All right, now let's talk big picture here for a second here with Tommy Lloyd, because I think we need to keep coming back to this, because there's an inordinate amount of people that I think don't quite appreciate it. Is Tommy Lloyd Mike Krzyzewski? No, he's not. But if Tommy Lloyd, and I keep saying this, and I always say this, if Tommy Lloyd were to hit the open market, Tommy Lloyd would be the hottest commodity going. Again, this is his 4th year as a coach. He has won 90-something games. He's made 2 Sweet 16s. I get it. At Arizona, we want Final Fours. I get that. Miller was here for 15 years or whatever, had top 3 recruiting classes every year, and didn't make a Final Four. And again, that's not a slight towards Miller, because he did some really, really good things here. But people also, I think, need to put Tommy Lloyd in perspective, though, at the same time, that this man's good. We're lucky to have him, and it's going to, again, it's going to, he's still learning on the job, but if he were to hit the open market, he would be swooped up immediately.
Well, and look, I get expectations are high for Arizona basketball, as they should be. Totally get it. But he's won 90 games in his first 3 seasons, 87, whatever it is. Most wins in the first 2 years of as a starting coach. And so should we expect him to win a national title in his first 3 or 4 years? No. And so does he have to do better in the tournament, win more games in the tournament? Yes. But we're not that far away from, Kevin O'Neal and Mike Dunlap and Russ Pennell. Like, things could go a lot worse than Tommy Lloyd. So I think we always have to take a step back and just think about all the other interim and part-time coaches we had for a while and say, okay, let's take a deep breath. Do we need to be better in the tournament? Sure. Could he recruit high school players a little better? Sure. But we're in a pretty good spot.
Okay, now, Kobe L. Thiel, I like Kobe L. Thiel a great deal, but he's had 2 very bad takes here. First of all, if you want to poo on Trey Townsend, fair enough. But when you wanted Javier Amos instead, you don't win that one. Sorry, you don't win that one. Javier Amos can stand in the corner shooting 1 3-pointer per game, and you can have your spacing. There's obviously that. And Kobe L. Thiel also said last year at this time that the Steelers needed to get rid of Mike Tomlin. I'm not exactly sure that that probably has aged well either, but, maybe Mike Tomlin just isn't that. Maybe just Mike Tomlin isn't good. So there is that. All right, now, Jesus Vaz. Here's the thing with Miller that I'm going to keep coming to, is that the thing had run its course. I give Miller a lot of credit for what he did here. Miller didn't win a tournament game in his last, 5 years here? I mean, he had his run. That run was up, though, at that point. It got stale. And keep in mind, too, Tommy Lloyd, with like the exact same roster that Miller went like 18-12 with, had like the number 2 overall seed in the entire tournament at like 35-3. He maximized that team. So let's pump the brakes there a little bit. It's not like this is Lute Olson that we're talking about here. But like I said, he's still got to figure some things out, but I'm still very, very happy that we have him. Now Ryan Neal says the truth is as long as Caleb Love is on the team, we have no chance of doing anything in the tournament. Let me ask you this, Ryan Neal. Caleb Love, was he not the leading scorer on a North Carolina team that went to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken? And again, I'm just saying, I think that was that Caleb Love. So he has definitely done that. Now the offensive flow has been a little odd. And let me ask you this: what's your take on Tommy Lloyd in the half court?
I think there's 2 distinct different types of coaches when it comes to offensive basketball. There's your Rick Majerus, your Kevin O'Neal, who are going to come down and have a set.
We got 2 Kevin O'Neal references in here. Yeah, love it.
Exactly. Kevin O'Neal used to have Chase Budinger run back and forth from side to side to side to side to side to side. Jared
or
Bayless
have Jared Bayless chase him in a circle. Yeah. Yes, I love that.
And so you've got that type of coach who, when you've got Rick Majerus, it works great, right? You're running offensive sets every possession down. Then you've got other coaches like Tommy Lloyd, who Roy Williams was this way. They just have a motion offense that they run, and that's going to be their base offense. Now, do they have certain counters and certain plays they'll call and certain sets they'll call out of it? Sure. But Tommy Lloyd's offense has been averaging like 90 points a game through the first 3 seasons of his coaching. Maybe high 80s for the ones who want to try to exact it. But like Tommy Lloyd and offense philosophy is not the problem. Could you argue that maybe these players haven't figured it out exactly yet? You got a few new bigs in the mix and things of that nature. Sure. Does he need better shooting? Of course. But I'm not ever going to question Tommy Lloyd's ability to draw up offense and put points on the board just because he scored 55 points in a game. Like he averages 85, 90 points a game by default. So I'm good.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is his first 2-game losing streak that he's had since he's been here. So
which is nuts.
Which is wild to think about when you're this far along here, when you're this far along. Now, as far as this goes though, so let's talk about, I want to talk about the rotation a little bit here. Because I think that's something that we need to talk about.
Caleb Love, but the bench.
Caleb Love, get him out of here. But first, more bill pays. NUTRL. All right, NUTRL. Now, you might see there were a lot of kids that were drinking NUTRL. And again, oh, by the way, something that always cracks me up, there were some kids, by the way, they were chanting my name. There was like 8 to 10 of them that were chanting my name. I couldn't believe it. I was very, very, even Sheer was taken aback. Mike Luke. But these kids were much cooler than me because they had NUTRLs. One thing about them, though, that I didn't understand, though, is calling Duke players names instead of just saying, you guys suck, when these Duke players, if they would have probably seen them out front, they probably would have. I don't think it would have ended well. But either way, NUTRL, just like Kevin L. Thomas behind the scenes, go to NUTRL, St. Louis, Missouri, Anheuser-Busch. All kinds of really, really good stuff at NUTRL. Great thing about NUTRL, too, is that it tastes good. Keep it tasty, Tucson. Check out NUTRL. And, John Brogan, Circle K. Listen, you got 3 Rugrats running around the house. You got a lovely wife that I'm sure is having to shepherd them around. When was the last time you guys went to Circle K?
Not today.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, and I was in Dallas for the last 4 days for work.
Well, so did you go to Dallas? Did you go to Circle K in Dallas?
No. I don't know. Right, do they have Circle K's in Dallas?
Oh, they have Circle K's everywhere. Come on, man. They have Circle K's everywhere. Now, here's the deal with Circle K. Check it out. Circle K. Hold on a second. Where is it? Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. All right, now we need to talk about the rotation here. But hold on a second. We got another ASU guy in here. Imagine losing to Duke. Imagine losing to Duke. Here, this is interesting from Vontez Buckshanks. He's saying, imagine losing to Duke by 57 points. Wow, we didn't lose to Duke by 57 points. That would be Arizona State. I don't know why you're telling me that, but either way, congrats on that 57-point loss. All right, now let's talk about the rotation a little bit because I think this is where it gets. This is where the hammer meets the anvil. Is that the right term, John Brogan?
Hammer meets the nail. Hammer meets the anvil.
I think anvil works. It's not like armor sharp. It's not like armor sharpens armor, but hey, here's Dick Wilson. This guy Dick Wilson says he knows you. John, you need to get some sleep. You have a golf tournament tomorrow. Is this true?
True, but I don't need sleep for that.
Who is Dick Wilson? You said you don't know who he is.
I probably know who it is, but I don't know who it is with the name Dick Wilson. But
Dick Wilson's a great name.
I'm assuming it's an alias.
Yeah. Yes, Dick Wilson is a great name. Okay, but either way, iron sharpens iron, armor sharpens armor. This is true. Okay, now, Jaden Bradley is going to be getting 25 to 33 minutes per game. We agree on that. There's 1.
Yep.
Caleb Love, same thing. 2.
Yep.
KJ Lewis, same thing. 3.
Yep, as long as he ain't in foul trouble.
Right. So those are the 3 guys that we know. I think we're also kind of at the point now where you've got to figure out exactly how, because all these guys are different in a weird way, and they all kind of got some limitations. Now, again, I am not giving up on Trey Townsend. Like I said, I think Trey Townsend's going to have a game where he's got like 18 and 11, and people are like, oh, he's good. I'm still on the Trey Townsend wagon, especially over Javier Amos. Don't need Javier Amos. But he's got to step up there. But Krivas, Awaka, and Vaser and Trey Townsend, those minutes are all going to be kind of, scattershot. I can see them going in any which way, but I am of the opinion, though, now that I need Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant is another one that kind of makes your margin for error a little bit bigger. Need Carter Bryant out there more.
Yeah, and if you remove Del Orso from the equation, you're going to get about 8 minutes at the 2 and about 8 minutes at the 3 that can flow to Carter Bryant. No, he's not playing the 2, but Lewis will go to the 2. He comes to the 3, and that's how the minutes will work. So he's going to get about 8 minutes there. He's going to get the rest of the minutes at the 3, and then he'll get a bunch of minutes at the 4. So I think he gets bumped up from 15 to 18 to closer to 25. And I think Vaser will be the one that is probably that 12 to 15 minute guy that just fills the time when there's either foul trouble or they need to change a pace or he's hitting threes or something. He may get a few more minutes. But I mean, I think the rotation's going to simply be the first 5 with Krivas at the center and Awaka and Bryan off the bench. And you're going to shift Lewis and Love to the 1 and the 2. And that's the rotation's going to be 7 people tight with Vaser being the one guy who will play some spot minutes here and there.
Yeah, for sure.
Conrad Martinez is not getting minutes, so we can
see that already. That's what I get a lot of people that ask about Conrad Martinez. Conrad Martinez, yes, that's just not going to happen. Now, you could say Love is the problem right now. Love's got to play better. I mean, we're not sitting here and like Brogan said, if Caleb, this offense is designed for Caleb Love to score 15 to 20 points by any means, by almost any means necessary. And right now that's not happening. That would be my first real thing is I've got to get that confidence back. I've got to get, honestly, and I know some people might not like this. Honestly, I almost don't care at this point if I'm Tommy Lloyd, if he misses shots or not. I need him to be shooting with that confidence. That's where I'm kind of at. What say you? And then we'll get to the super snaps.
Yeah. I mean, just looking through the comments, I think with Arizona now, I think Tommy now knows after 2 good battle tested games, 2 losses, I think he knows who he can play and who he can't. And
right.
So that means Del Orso's not going to play a ton. That means Conrad's not going to play, but I still do think he's got work to do on the actual rotation, and he's going to have to figure out how to get Trey Townsend involved in the offense. You don't go from averaging 20 a game in Oakland last year into averaging 30 a game in the tournament or 25 in the tournament, whatever it was, and then show up to Arizona and be a 4-point per game guy. And so he's going to have to figure out how to get him more involved. And it's not just going to be with his standard kind of high-low set that he's done the last 3 years. He's going to have to get a little bit creative. But again, when it comes to offense, there's not too many more people in the country that I trust more than Tommy because he's proven for 3 years in a row that his teams can score. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Now, here's the other thing too: is that it is his 4th year as a head coach. I would be curious to go back and look at it. We'll probably talk about this later, later next week. Electron Vibes said Love blew his load at UNC, but he was better at Arizona last year than he was at any of the UNC. That's why I think people are looking at it, and I think they're, again, saying this respectfully, I think they're being a little bit short-sighted there. But with Tommy Lloyd, I would be very curious. How many coaches in their first 4 years as a head coach have done this? I would be very curious as to that.
You mean as far as winning as many games he has?
Yeah, because I think everybody wants the Final Four. I get all of that. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it, but I would say that you still got to remember too that you are learning on the job. Again, because you can be an assistant for as long as you want, but when you're calling the shots, when you're trying to figure things out, it's just different. I mean, that's what I'm going to keep coming back to.
Well, and the bottom line is it's really, really, really hard to win a title. It's really, really hard to make it to a Final Four. Mark Few, it took him a long time to get over the hump, and it took him a long time after he had these teams that were ranked super, super high. I'm not talking about mid-major Gonzaga, but, power Gonzaga. So I don't know. I mean, he's 6-7 games into his 3rd year, 8 games into his 3rd year or 4th year. If this were year 8, 9, 10 or anything like that, and we still haven't made it past the Sweet 16, okay, we got a serious problem. But to your point, it's his first head coaching job. He's winning a ton of games. You kind of have to not necessarily be happy with that, but it certainly makes it really hard to complain when you're winning 30 games a year.
Right now, question was, who did Love show out against? I mean, like I said, the number 1 team in the country last year was Purdue, and I think he had 33 against.
Well, he averaged 19, 5, and 4, and was a first-team All-American. So he didn't have 30 bad games last year. I think that's physically impossible for him to have done that.
I was going to say it's a heck of a trick if he did, though.
Yeah.
It is a. Now let's look forward then a little bit here. I have a feeling, and again, I could be right. I mean, I could be right. I like that. I could be right. I could be wrong. It could be both of them. But at the same time, I do think that Arizona is going to play very well in Atlantis. All right, stop with the Boswell stuff. I don't need Boswell, and I don't get this. This is the oddest thing. I would take Kerr over Boswell, and I didn't even want Kerr here. So I don't know what else to say. Love is not the new Boswell. I'm not going with that. So there is some disparity. I think Arizona's going to play very well in Atlantis. Honestly, I think it's good to get away. You got a Davidson, then you got Oklahoma Providence, and possibly Gonzaga. I think Arizona's going to play very well. I really do, and I think we're going to be sitting here talking about something different.
Well, and just for the record, Boswell's averaging 8 points a game on 35% shooting from the floor. So pretty sure that doesn't help us win, against Wisconsin or Duke. Right. If this, again, I keep coming back to, if this were the NCAA tournament in the second round, the Sweet 16, I'd be a little more disappointed, but it's early in the season and Arizona's playing better games. When Sean Miller was here, he was the RPI maximizer. He would go find all the mid-major teams that would boost his RPI rating because he wanted a higher seed in the tournament, and then we weren't battle-tested for the tournament. Right. Tommy, on the other hand, schedules a bunch of hard games on purpose. Yeah. And so, you're going to lose games when that's the case. The harder your schedule is, the more games you're going to lose, but the more prepared you should be for the tournament. So hopefully they learn from these. They figure out how to, do things a little better offensively, and they figure out how to make a few more threes and get to the bucket more and get back to their offensive rebounding, and we start winning. Right. But I don't see this Arizona team losing. I don't see them losing 10 games, honestly, and they're going to have a tough conference schedule, but I don't see them losing 10 games.
Yes, exactly. Now, we should have kept Philly B. Running off Boswell was the best offseason move. Yes, I agree with that. Yes, 55 points is pitiful. But here's the thing, guys. Nobody's saying that Arizona played well. I don't know anybody that's saying Arizona played well. This was not a good game for Arizona. I mean, to put it mildly, this was not a good game. But I'll tell you what.
Real quick, for the guy saying that I'm just, spewing stats on Boswell, not watching the games, I watched over 60 of Kylan Boswell's games, and if you did, you'd understand why he's not at Arizona too. I've seen enough of Boswell to know exactly what the scouting report is on him.
Exactly. We know exactly what the scouting report is on him. He is not going to shoot. He in a big game. I mean, again, I don't know what this
Well,
we've seen Boswell.
and what Boswell really is he's going to be out at the poker table way too late during the tournament.
Yeah.
Probably going to drink a little too much. And then he's going to show up to the game and fire up a bunch of air balls and not take big shots. And
he didn't take it, but here's why. And here's why, again, that the one thing that in life, I can deal with somebody not being good at something. Heck, I go through my entire life not being good at anything. But at the same time, though, I can't deal with people that do not take it seriously. And that was him. He didn't take it seriously. Again, I don't understand. I don't understand this at all. At least with Kurt Krisa, I didn't like Kurt Krisa, but at the same time with Kurt Krisa, I think he wanted to win. I think, he played hard. I just didn't really watch it. With Boswell, he didn't care. So if he didn't care, then I don't really know what else to say on that one. That's yes. I hope there will be no more Boswell talk on this. I do apologize. That is just very, very annoying to me. Okay, now let's see here. Oh, I got some text here from Kevin L. Thomas. All right, now we've got. Let's. I'll tell you what. Let's pay some more bills here first. Sanderson Ford. All right, now John Brogan might not need a Sanderson Ford. I need a Sanderson Ford. Everybody out there, you need a Sanderson Ford as well. Now, the thing about these things have girth. These things have substance. They have strength. They have everything that you want a Sanderson Ford. Now, with the Sanderson Ford, I'm going to say this about Sanderson Ford too, that they've got all kinds of really good deals as well. Check it out, Sanderson Ford. Great thing about it is, get your new 2024 Ford F-150 with 3.9% fine APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back. Similar savings on up over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles. So don't miss the Sanderson Ford Black Friday thank you sale. Disclaimer: OAC through Ford credit up to $4,000 cash back. Requires trade-in of a 96 or newer vehicle. Offer expires November 30th. Sanderson Ford and Game Time. Okay, now you might say to yourself, Mike, I would like to put Game Time. I would like to get something from Game Time. Now, Game Time. Here's where it's at. You can get tickets here. Now, maybe you're like John Brogan and you sold your tickets for over $8,000 for the Arizona Duke game, and you're looking to get those back. Game Time, my friend. Game Time. Now, Brogan, you said you sold your tickets for almost $8,000 combined, correct?
A little less than that, but yeah.
All right, a little bit, but kind of in the same, all right, now, exactly. Now, but either way, with Game Time, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code for $20 off. Download Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. Ooh. Okay, now, Umar Ballo has been brought up a lot in this. Here's kind of where I'm at with Umar. Hold on. Let's see. TLN says, well, I'm not at all far this. I told Mike for a long time that Henry would be good because of the glimpses he showed in Maui, and Mike called me crazy every time. Here we are, and Henry is the best big man on the team. I don't know that I watch this and I say that Henry is the best big man on the team. Would you agree with that sentiment, Sean Brogan?
Yeah. I think he's going to be situationally better than Awaka in some games, but he's not better than Krivas. And again, he might have a better game occasionally, but yeah, he's the third best big on the team.
Right. Now, okay. Now, when it comes to all right, now all right, but yeah, so I do not agree. I do not agree with that. Now, up front, the big men are fascinating. The big men are fascinating though. A lot of people, but Umar Ballo would have been very good in this game. But also, I think what the thing about Umar Ballo, though, and again, I could be wrong, and I get really what I'm saying is, I felt that you kind of reached the end of the road with Ballo. That his limitations were, yes, Edgar, I'm not arguing with that right now. But he's also getting paid $1.2 million. The problem with Umar is he had two massive flaws, and I like Umar, but he couldn't make any free throws whatsoever. And in the pick and roll, he was as bad as it came. And in big games, that was exposed, Brogan.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit, is Ballo would have been better for Arizona tonight. Long term, I've seen enough of Ballo. I know what Ballo is going to be in the tournament. I've seen too many missed free throws where he's getting fouled intentionally, too many times where he can't catch a pass. I'd seen enough of Ballo where if somebody was going to pay him $1.2 million, cool.
Yeah.
All good.
Right.
I also expected Krivas to make a bigger jump to where that gap wouldn't have been so wide as it was tonight, for instance. But Ballo definitely would have helped us out today. But again, it's one game, and so you can't really overreact.
Right.
I did figure out who Dick Wilson is, by the way.
Who is Dick Wilson?
Just an old, long time friend of mine.
He said he knows you from Greenfields.
From the Benson days, I think. If it's who I think it is.
Is it Tom Danahy?
No, that would be from Greenfields.
Okay, yeah, all right. Well,
Hall of
either way,
Fame coach Tom Danahy.
I saw Tom Danahy at Lucky Wishbone the other day. Hard to believe, I know, really, but yes, on the north side, yeah, the Mr. Tom Danahy. Okay, now as far as recruiting goes, let's see here. Oh yeah, now Ben says, "I'm sorry, but if Ballo can't catch a pass, how do you back up Krivas? You guys are overestimating Krivas." No, I get what you're saying, Ben, but at the same time, I think what we're both saying is that the problem with Ballo though is that Arizona is not Louisville, where you can have basically $9 million for NIL to just pay whoever. You've got to be judicious. And Umar just wasn't worth $1.2 million. He just wasn't that dude. I mean, we saw it against Princeton, we saw it against Clemson, where it was very, very difficult to play him. And I can't, if I'm paying somebody that kind of money, because that's some of the highest money that any kid's getting in all of college basketball. You've got to be a real game changer. And Ballo just wasn't that for me. And that's not a slight towards Ballo. He just wasn't. You get what you can't go into that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, we know exactly, this is a little bit of, hindsight. We know exactly who Ballo was. We were saying the same things about Ballo last year after games that we're saying about Krivas after this game tonight. And so, sure, it's easy to be like, oh, we miss Ballo, but we had the same frustrations with him more times than we've had with Krivas. Again, we're not backing Krivas per se. I expected Krivas to be better, and I'm going to give him more time because, again, he missed so much time with the ankle injury. But the reason you let Ballo go is, one, money, two, you thought Krivas would take a bigger leap. And then that's the risk, or that's a risk worth taking if Krivas really does get better, because offensively he's significantly more talented than Ballo. Ballo's just big.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the upside is there. So, all right, now Krivas is bigger, but he doesn't use the now with Krivas, again, I did not like what I saw from Krivas today, but I'm also going to give him, the dude didn't run for 2 months. And this was also, I talked about this with Brogan on the phone. This was also a little bit more of this was also kind of a difficult matchup for him. I mean, Maluwatch he's a stud. I mean, and he's just barely scratching the surface of what he's going to be. I mean, I'll put it to you like this: Arizona will not play a big man as talented as him. Now, they might play better big man, but they're not going to play a more talented big man this entire season than him. I mean, he's that dude, and that's why he's going to be. Now, Caleb Love is not getting $2 million. Caleb Love is getting about 400. Well, I'm not going to give you the number, but Caleb Love is not getting anywhere near what Umar Ballo is getting. So I think people need to keep that part in mind. Okay, now going forward, then what are the biggest things for you that you need to be able to correct? And Hunter Dickinson does not scare me, because Hunter Dickinson, I've seen that game, he's good, but Hunter Dickinson is also in college still for a reason. And I say that as I think the Kansas is the best team in the country. But yeah, go ahead, Brogan.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty simple at this stage of the season. Is they've got to figure out a way to get Love going. And, if that's Tommy, running a few more kind of sets inside his motion for him to get him some looks, get him going to the basket, things of that nature, they got to get Love going. It all starts there. If they don't get Love going, then this team's ceiling is severely limited. And then they've got to figure out a way to get Trey Townsend more space to kind of operate. Think back to the Red-Blue game. It was like, oh, the mid-post, the elbow, all these things he could do with the ball in his hands. But right now he's suffering from permanent screener into a high-low with an occasional post-up, which I don't think does him. It's a little bit of a disservice to his skill set. And so I think if you can figure out how to get those two more involved in the offense, you solve all your scoring issues. And then I think you've just got to get a little tighter on defense in terms of how you want to guard the screen and roll. My preference would be to get rid of that switch everything, set. But again, tonight, defensively, I'm not that upset because without all the fouls at the end of the game or them pressing and letting Cooper Flagg shoot a couple floaters in the paint, it's a 64, 65-point game. That doesn't feel that bad from a defensive standpoint. That's enough for them to win if their offense is clicking. So I think it's more about getting Love and Townsend going, and then the offense takes care of itself.
Okay, now it's now time for the Back the A Player of the Game here, presented by NUTRL. Okay, now powered by NUTRL. Check it out. Jaden Bradley, right now he is the best player on this team, and he's the best player by a mile. 18 points, 5 steals, 3 assists. He's good. What kind of player he is at the next level? Probably, I don't know. But as far as a college college point guard, this is the first good point guard that Tommy Lloyd's ever had. We should enjoy it.
And we should all hope he comes back, that he's just not good enough to go to the NBA and comes back for one more year.
It's a good problem. Yes, that is something. Hey, you're looking for a silver lining. How about that one? So, yes. Anyways, people, deep breaths. I think Arizona's going to be okay. We'll see where we're at in a week. But again, very much we'll see. All right. John Brogan, very much appreciate you hopping on. I do believe that Kevin Thomas, I believe that's all I think I got all the reads in there, if I'm not mistaken. We will be back with you tomorrow, though, right after Arizona TCU. That game's going to be all kinds of fun. We should, lots of meaning to that game. But for John Brogan, I am merely Mike Luke. Everybody out there, very much appreciate you all. We'll be back with you. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats postgame show.
We all silly like the mayor.